Also wenn ich auf dem Schirm bin, bevor ich die Folien einschalte, dass die Leute mich zwischendurch noch sehen. Das ist, glaube ich, auch ganz nett.
Ja, wir sind gerade auf Sendung, aber...
Super.
Okay, alles klar.
Hello World.
Hello World, genau. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Agile TD Mondays. Today with Olaf. And before he starts, I want to tell you that we have awesome tutorial speakers, of which Olaf is one. And please come to the Agile Testing Days and listen either to Jess Humble, Angie Jones, Purnima Vijaya Shankar, or any other tutorial speakers. They are awesome. They have something to tell you and you can take it back to your company. Please register at the Agile Testing Days homepage and I hope to see you there. And now we can listen to Olaf. Now to you, Olaf.
Thank you. This is nice, having a flying start. Because lead to great leads. We started with, can we talk about leadership? And then we wanted to become more specific. And I decided to focus on this because our general understanding of leadership is that we have a few people who lead, and these are the important people, the powerful people, the experienced, knowledgeable people, the experts, whatever, the bosses, and they lead and everybody else is following. It's leading and people following, and my thinking about the world and my thinking about what I want to, or my idea of what I want to bring into the world is more about liberating people from this followership and creating leaders in everybody, activating the power that everybody has to influence the world. And so one good question to start with is, what is leadership? And my very, very simple definition is leadership is making a difference with intention. There's a lot of things we do where we make a difference. We are not always very intentional about what we do. This is what my experience is. Most things in my life, I've probably not spent too much time thinking about or actually deciding, yes, I want to do this because. A lot of things I've done because I thought I had to, because this was just the way we did it, because somebody told me do this and I was following. So the idea of getting into a leadership position, and this could be leading anything, leading your life, leading your relationship, leading your team, leading your company, leading your project, leading the product development, leading the QA department. My understanding and my teaching around leadership doesn't focus on the specific context. Wherever you are, you can make a difference, and you want to make that difference with an intention. And this whole idea about intentionality, about knowing what we want, this is something that I've been, I wanted to say obsessed with. That's probably a too strong a word, but I've been thinking about researching, trying to uncover how does that work? How does that work that we want something and that we do so many things without being aware of what we want? And the topic of clarity came up in that research. A lot of times we are not conscious of many things. That's just how the human brain and how our attention works. And a lot of time we do not take the time to actually figure out what it is that we want, because we're just following something, following somebody's expectations, fulfilling what we think people want us to do, etc. And another area of clarity or of unclarity is reality. We have so many perception filters. Again, this is how our brain works, that we not always really focus on what is going on around me, where am I, who am I? And the surprising insight was, when you say it out loud, it sounds dumb, but it's surprising nonetheless. Once we know who we are and what we want, and we're able to articulate that, the chances that we get what we want increase immensely. And that's what's been driving me in all of my Trust Artist and Trust Temenos work in the past few years, of giving people awareness of this, who they are and what they want, and become more impactful that way. What does that mean? It means that you are showing up in a way that actually is helpful to get what you want. That you show up in a way that is conducive to the results that you're looking for in your life, in your team, in your relationships, everywhere you are. So there are naturally things or times during the day where you don't pay a lot of attention. I usually don't pay a lot of attention, like starting from getting up out of bed, into the bathroom, into the kitchen, making a coffee, and then depending on what I do next, my attention kind of wakes up, and then something starts that I actually want to happen and something that I think is important for me to happen. It might be a phone call, it might be a conversation over breakfast, it might be something I read. And this is what I want to improve, that we know who we are in a specific context and what we want. How does that relate to leadership? The bigger context of leadership is that we want to grow something. So let's say you are leading a team, or you are leading a department, or you are leading an organization or a project. You want something to grow. You want something to grow within that specific context, and you want it to grow with trust. You want it to grow with relationships, and you want to have confidence if you are intending to lead it. And the confidence comes from being aware of where you are, that's the context awareness, and who you are and what you want. And then you can have these nice things like vision and plans and strategies. You can do coaching or mentoring or development, all of the things that are activities that express leadership. But the leadership at its core is that somebody, and this could even be the team, it's not necessarily restricted to one person. Somebody knows who they are and what they want, and with that confidence make a difference in the world. Yes?
Olaf, I have a question. When you say
Sure.
In a team, do you mean
Yeah.
it's not necessary that everybody knows who they are, but there has to be one or two persons, they know what they want?
That's an excellent question. I haven't thought about it that way, but I think this is a spectrum. So it's not. I don't think there are two kinds of people. Some people know who they are, and other people don't. Like when I ask you who you are, you have an answer, right? And it's not a difficult question. But as you think about it, who are you at work? Who are you at home? Who are you in this specific situation, in this call where we are talking to each other, although we can't see each other right now? You have a different sense of identity. And my experience is that when you have a few people in a group, I think one is enough to start, but then they need to be strong enough to actually lead this. And they explore this topic so that they not only get to know each other as, okay, that's Joe and he's testing, and that's Jack and he's developing, and that's Sandra and she is providing the infrastructure and she's taking care of all the computers and she's our administrator. But that we actually get to know Sandra a little better, and that we understand who she is as a human being, and we understand Peter and Jack and Joe better as human beings, and that enables us as a group, and this is what you asked about, us as a group to have a sense of who we are. Like we're not just the team developing the software where we would be, or we could be, exchangeable cogs in a machine, but we are actually a team. We have an identity. We have a sense of belonging to this thing that is more than just the sum of its parts. Does that make sense?
Yes. I think when you mentioned we have the identity at home, this was also my question. I was like, there's the public fear and the private fear. And how is this going to get together at work so that it's not like distracting like the context? Because
absolutely,
you cannot separate the spheres, and it's getting difficult, especially if you have tension in the team.
Exactly. So that's the context management part. So context management is the discipline where we need to develop the most practice. if you are good at context management, then it enables you to create and hold space and time for things to happen. And once you master this space and time thing, you become present in the current moment, and you gain this clarity that I've been speaking of at the beginning. And context management means that, for instance, when you talk about home and work, what I've done most of my working life is carrying stuff home from work. And I'm not talking about writing emails. I'm talking about grudges. I'm talking about hurts. I'm talking about emotional stuff that was just not resolved. And because I didn't have good context management, I took it home, and I would, for instance, shout at my wife, not because she did anything to me, not because I really was angry at her, but she was doing something, and then my anger came out, and the anger was actually work-related. What also happens to people, I do not drive to work usually, so I'm not that affected by traffic, but I know people who drive to work and then become emotional because traffic can be quite stressful, and then they bring that emotion into the team.
Yeah.
So context management means that you are increasingly aware of boundaries, and that you consciously know, okay, I'm exiting the traffic context, I'm entering the work context. One thing that I frequently do with teams is a ritual, like a check-in, so that when we start the day, we briefly say, this is how I'm showing up today. I had a really bad experience in traffic. Now that I've said it, it's gone. I've had a beautiful evening with my daughter, and that was lovely. And I'm really looking forward to working with you today. And then everybody knows, okay, Olaf has arrived. There's been something in traffic, so he might still be a little tensious. And if I want to, I might, in the next coffee break, I might talk to him about this lovely evening with his daughter, because that sounds interesting, and that might be a way for us to grow our relationship. So this context management is absolute key. To be aware of one exercise that I usually use, and this is something that we do in our tutorial as well, when we talk about making a bigger difference as a tester, is looking at contexts within our team in which we spend time, energy, and attention, and look at how well that's working, so that people visualize on a piece of paper, where do they focus and spend and invest their time, energy, and attention, and where are the tensions, where does stress come from? Do I distribute my time and attention in a way that is working well for me, or do I do it in a way that creates stress for me and maybe for others? And when we then look at these different contexts, and everybody has lots of different contexts, even during one workday, even if we just look at my work in a team, it's sometimes I'm talking to somebody, sometimes I'm writing something on a computer, sometimes I'm in a meeting and listening, etc. So lots of different contexts, and being aware of what's the specific intention I have in a context. What's the relationship I'm developing in a context? And how do I want that relationship to be? And that's the awareness that I'm talking about when I talk about leadership. So the more awareness of this you have, the more awareness can you bring to the group. And when you're showing up with that strong intention, then you can focus the energy of a group towards something that becomes effective and valuable. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it's more like a progress.
Yes, okay. Exactly. And at the core of all of this are human relationships. So another definition for leadership that I could have given at the beginning, that would have turned around the order of slides, but it would have been a very similar talk, I think, is leadership is building relationships. So I think whenever I lead something, when I'm leading my life, I'm developing the relationship with myself, or developing my relationship with the world, or with my success, or whatever my purpose is. When I'm leading my relationship, I'm developing my relationship with my wife. When I'm leading my team, I'm developing my relationship with the team. I'm developing the team's relationship with the product, the team's relationship with the organization. And I will probably always focus on one of these things at a time, depending on what's currently important. And relationship development works with a constant flow between attention and feedback. So it's about spending the time to actually pay attention, to listen, to have empathy and compassion for whatever is going on in the system, and to give and get feedback. And feedback ideally should be honest, authentic, expressing gratitude. And if we do that, and if we have a continual flow of these two things, and integration of attention and feedback, then trust grows and the relationship grows.
Olaf, did you ever come across a team that completely lacked trust?
Yes.
And how did you help them? Because I think this is when you start, or when you build a new team. I mean, there's people, they don't know each other.
Yeah.
And they're also, I mean, trust is there, for example, in the workplace, but not on the emotional level. Absolutely.
So we need to first establish what we want. So I've been invited to do trust workshops with broken teams. That's one of the things that happens when you label yourself as the trust artist. And while at the beginning that was just a bold label, and but it led to interesting experiences and to me actually understanding how this works. So when the team still considers themselves a team, and they still have some intention of doing something together. So if it's broken so they can't talk to each other anymore, and they don't want to be in the team anymore, then there's very little you can do. Obviously, when they are in the same company and they have a boss who tells them, you need to be on this team, then I can come in and I can be very kind and very gentle with them and very blunt and say, look, this is your job. Apparently, from what I've heard, you need to be in this team if you want to keep this job. So do you want to give it another go? So there's something you can do around motivation building, but in the end, they need to have an intention. Okay, this is what we want. And then you basically need to create a space for forgiveness to happen, for people to actually acknowledge what happened so that they were hurt and that the trust was lost. And then they need to make an agreement on what can we do to regain that trust. And usually it's not just words are a big step, but it's not just words. You then need to see actions. A lot of the time trust is broken. It's because of broken promises or broken expectations, broken commitments. And there I would say we need to make a plan of what would tell me that this guy who's never delivered on time is now actually delivering what he said when he said he would deliver it. So that we can grow this practical, transactional trust that's needed for commitment in the team together. So the methods we use are useful for that kind of situation. It's not easy, but it's possible, and you need to really want it. That's the bottom line.
Okay. So are there any traps or impediments which people can avoid when you tell them now, so that don't fall into them?
If there's something you have, clean the slate. Don't carry it with you because it gets bigger. It clouds our perceptions. We tend to hold back with problems we have. So let's say we work on a team and you have some habit that gets on my nerves, maybe just a little bit at the beginning. If I tell you right away, and if I'm curious, like, hey, I see you're doing this way. That's interesting. I've never seen anybody do it like that, right? That would be a quite innocent question. Could be something that's really getting on my nerves, but I could approach it with curiosity. And then you explain that this is the way you do it because whatever. And maybe this whole thing immediately makes sense. Maybe I can show you the way I would like to do it. And then you say, oh, this is interesting. And it can change. And then we don't even have a problem. So my experience with my own, also with my own stuff, when I have ruined relationships, and I definitely have, it was because there was something going on that I didn't address, that I didn't confront, that I didn't talk about. And that's the thing that we need. And it's so much harder to clean it up later when we already have big walls around our hearts and we really don't want to reach out to the other anymore because we just see the enemy and we don't see the human being anymore.
So communication between the teammates are also is also essential.
Absolutely, yes. And and also to have the time to actually see the other as a human being and not just focus on not just focus on the work, because we can feel so undervalued so easily when everybody's just focusing on our output and not on our self. I'm talking about taking time. I noticed that we are moving forward. I just want to briefly summarize, as we are now doing Agile leadership trainings. One of them we're actually doing with you just the week before Agile testing days. Our understanding of Agile is that you as an organization or as a team have a good knowledge of why you do what you do. So you have a good sense of purpose, a clear vision of your product, and you are sufficiently aware of how you do it so that you can continually improve it. And this is also my approach, our approach to Agile leadership, having the strong sense of intention as a leader and a sense of yourself and awareness of how you function as a human being, how you show up as a human being, and how that is linked to the results you get in your workplace so that you can continually improve it. So we don't tell leaders you need to be this or that way to be Agile. You don't need to be XYZ at a certain level or something. Agility in leadership is just like agility in organizations. It's continuous improvement with this basic that's on the slide here. We've been doing this leadership development for 2 years in our Trust Temenos Leadership Academy. We're currently signing up the next generation, which will start in October. If you want to know more about that, look at our website or into the book, which is available and which is a workbook that works you through the journey of the Academy. And we have this new Certified Agile Leadership training, which will happen in November in Berlin. That's the week before Agile Testing Days. Christina and I will do this 2-day training, which is a new Scrum Alliance certification addressing leadership change in organizations. This is the training you want to send your boss to when he wants to help. And finally, Agile Testing Days. We will do this amazing tutorial, make a bigger difference as a tester. So we'll apply some of the ideas of our leadership model and some of the techniques of our trainings to testing, to have a stronger sense of context and a stronger awareness of context and a stronger sense of intention as a tester, and to explore this, how can we context dependent decide where we make the biggest difference in our teams. I think that's it. Thank you. Anything you want to add? Another question you have?
I don't know if we expand our time, but I wanted to know your experience in organizations with leadership, but I don't know if we extend our time. Can you shortly?
Yeah, sure. If people are interested, they will stay, I guess. So I became a leader in 2000. That's quite a while ago, without actually knowing how to do that, and with a very strong sense of I should know the answers because now I'm the boss, and I didn't dare to ask any questions. That was a very bad situation to be in. I've been working with organizations and with leaders in organizations ever since, and I think that leadership, especially in those organizations where leadership is a position, not just something anybody can do, these are people who have a high amount of pressure and pressure to deliver, pressure to keep the status quo, and pressure to change, which is very difficult to do at the same time. And the general approach, specifically in the Agile world, is we go around a lot and tell leaders what not to do. We rarely give them anything positive to follow, which is one of the reasons that this CAL program now exists, because that's the idea, to have a positive thing that a leader can do instead of just being told, don't interfere, stay back, let your team do the job. And yeah, my experience is that leaders want to change, they want to grow. It's just hard within this pressure situation, hard to find the time and the attention and to actually invest time in yourself so that you can change as a leader. So it's personal work. It's something that's extremely rewarding to me as the coach, and also to the leader in the organization who then sees how their behavior changes, the way they show up, and as it changes, how that leads to different results. And the truth is, in the end, if you want a different organization, and the organization you have now, and that could be, again, your team, your department, your whole company, if the organization you have now is the result of your leadership, and you want a different organization, an agile organization, a more effective organization, a more whatever organization, think about what kind of leader is that organization going to need. And if you want that new leader to be you have work to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your talk. Before I let you go, I want to tell the viewers who is going to be my guest in 2 weeks, because we have a bank holiday next week.
Yeah.
Pascal Dufour is going to tell you how to become a software testing world champion. He won the software testing world championship last year at the Agile Testing Days with his team, going to give you some tips to win the contest in 2018. Thank you very much. I appreciate that you took your time and shared your knowledge with me and the viewers. Hope to see you soon.
Yes.
And I wish you all the best until we see us again.
Same to you. And thank you for the chance to talk to you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.